Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Oasis Show. I'm really excited to have someone that I've only ever followed through social media, RuthAnn Swansburg from Moncton. She's not sitting in Moncton today. She's actually in Bathurst. Good morning, RuthAnn.
Good morning.
So excited for you to take some time out of your current week and your current little mini vacation to chat with us this morning. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what your business is?
Well, I actually started a Facebook page about 11 years ago. I guess it's 10 years ago. I'm about a half a year ahead in my head. And I was sharing deals and practical tips for saving money and things like that. And I honestly started out just as a hobby, sharing these things for my friends and family, and it just kind of exploded. I ended up with quite a large social media following. And at the time, I was working as a freelance graphic artist. That was my career. I was not intending for social media to take off the way it did. And then over the years, the content I was sharing shifted to being mostly from all the frugal living and couponing type stuff to supporting local businesses, sharing more about what my family was doing. Still living a frugal lifestyle. Like, we're an average everyday family. We are not rich, we're not poor, we're kind of in the middle, we're middle class, but we don't like to waste our money. So over the years, I realized that there was a lot of people who were interested in things that they could do with their families, activities they could do, businesses they could support. How can I support local when I'm trying to save money? So I started trying to help people figure that out. So where can you shift your spending so that you can support more local? So I want to buy my meat or my eggs or whatever from a local farmer, but it's a little bit more expensive than buying it at, say, Walmart. How do I figure out how to do that? Because people know that if they're buying local, they're supporting the local economy, and they're also, most of the time, it's a healthier option, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I do has been over the years focused around food, but it's kind of migrated. I changed the name of my blog from the Moncton Coupon Lady to Everything Unscripted, because through sharing my life, and I'm 45 now, I've got two kids who are 10 years apart, I realized that my life has been very unscripted. It is not what I pictured, or not, the flow of it did not go the way, and I think most people are like this, the way they pictured when they were 20, right? So I changed the name of my blog to Everything Unscripted so I could share more about the everyday things we were doing, rather than being labeled the coupon lady all the time. And mind you, people still say, "Oh, you're the coupon lady." But we just basically share our life and what we're doing. And that has led to my blog becoming a business for me. So small businesses reach out to me now to ask if I can help promote or support them in some way. They also ask me to consult to figure out what to do with social media. So I've kind of shifted. My background is in graphic design and communications, so I have that background, and I've grown with it as all the changes have happened in the past. With when I studied photography in college, we were using film, and then we were in dark rooms. So, it's changed over the year. But through just what I learned on my own through social media, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, how can I reach more people? Who can I work with that would be of benefit to me? So if a business comes to me and asks me to try a product or visit a location or promote them in some way, if they are not a fit for myself and my family, I know several other people who are influencers, and we don't necessarily like that term, but that's what we are. Yeah. I know several other people in Atlantic Canada that I can say, well, you know what, I'm not the best fit for you and your business, but maybe this person is. So I can at least pass the name on. So that's kind of what I do. I still do consulting, I still do freelance work, but my bread and butter as far as my career goes is I do social media management for other businesses.
Okay.
But I do a lot of consulting for small businesses to help them define their brand and create an image online, and so that they can continue on with it. So I don't necessarily manage their accounts, but I help them figure it out, and then they move on from there.
Right.
But as far as my own blog, it's just me sharing what we're doing. And then, like I think I mentioned to you earlier, not everything I do is sponsored. Very little of what I do is sponsored. We share where we are and what we're doing all the time. When I have somebody reach out to do sponsored work, we do a little bit more for them. And usually we end up, like right now we're in Bathurst. Tourism Chaleur has sponsored this trip. We are making sure we get to, we're being more active and doing more things, and we're here with the purpose of sharing dog-friendly and kid-friendly things to do in the region. So it's a little more defined than.
And I'm so glad that you touched on that, because, and let's just touch on that a little bit deeper. But, in this world of, as you call them, influencers, and, whether, like when sometimes people think of influencers, or even myself, if I follow them on Instagram, they're always living these very lavish lives, right? And they always have these packages coming every day of, and I think to myself, like, do you buy anything for your kids and your family? Like, you must, when they get off, like when they shut their phone off at night, they must just like fall into a pile and say like, oh, like, are they do they really just like, are they always that, kind of walking around perfect, or do they just like, so I'm glad you touched on that, because a lot of times people think of influencers and they think of this very lavish lifestyle that people are just knocking on your door, and, FedEx is dropping things off every day. But, obviously there's different kinds of influencers, and you've decided to be that influencer that uses what you've built to help others.
Yeah. And I think part of it is I started my page on Facebook to help people. I didn't start all of this to become an influencer. I had no clue 10 years ago that this would ever happen. And, I have ups and downs, and I have times when I say, you know what, I need a break. My mother had a stroke 3 summers ago. I moved my kids to St. John and took care of her. I let everybody know on Facebook that I would be pretty much non-existent for the summer. And you know what? Everybody stuck around and waited till the fall when I came back, because they feel like they know me, because I share the reality. When I'm cooking in my kitchen on a Monday night doing a Facebook Live, there's dirty dishes in the sink. I'm not on a set. I'm in my kitchen. My dog's running around in the background. I try to share the reality. Most of what I share is the highlights, and I try to tell people that's what it is. I'm not sharing, although I did last week, but I'm not always sharing the 20 pictures that led up to the perfect picture, right? But we all do it, and I think social media in general is the highlight reel of everybody's life, right? So I'm not going to go online and share all the difficult moments, but I'm also not going to blindly say, my life is perfect. I also started out, when my page became popular, I had a lot of brands that were approaching me and sending me free stuff and doing all of that. And when my second child was little, we got a lot of free, like I got strollers and all this stuff that people were sending me. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not picking these things out. So how do I know? Like, yeah, they might be a great product, but is that what I would have picked if I went shopping and figured it out myself? So, I was doing reviews and things like that. And then I started thinking, this doesn't seem, it's just not me. So, I still get stuff occasionally that is sent to me, but if a brand sends me something that I have not requested, then it will be clearly marked that it was gifted to me. That's another thing with influencers. You are supposed to claim everything that's sponsored and everything that's gifted. The difference between the two is that gifted is usually products that are, or services that are not requested. by the influencer. And sponsored, likely there's an agreement for an exchange of content in exchange for the product, or cash, or whatever the agreement is in the background, just so that people know, and there's a clear, but not all influencers know the difference between those two terms either. And that's another thing, you know, I'm very involved in the influencer community in Atlantic Canada, and we try to make sure that people that are popping up new in the industry realize that there is a difference when you see somebody saying something sponsored and something's gifted. So yeah, that's not always clear. And like I said, it really depends on the influencer. If I was a fashion and beauty influencer, my Instagram feed would probably be a lot more beautiful, a lot more staged. But you know, it's just it's just life. Like, I usually share, and stories are another thing that people with social media, a lot of people will share in their Insta stories, or their stories on Facebook now. They'll share kind of those behind the scene moments, or the more real stuff. And then their feeds have the prettier planned out posts, right? So as far as businesses approaching us, you know, right now I'm doing, when we're here on our trip, our agreement was I would post stories, because it's kind of quick. These are the things that we're doing. They're not the perfect picture. They're just, you know, here's the ice cream we had last night, and here's the beach we were on, and, you know, here's the picture of my kid with a, you know, whatever. But then, you know, anything that I've agreed to do on my Instagram feed is going to be more thought out. Hashtags that are going to be perfect and all that kind of stuff. So there's work behind what we do. It's not all just, this is my life. That's right. You know,
I'm just here, I'm there, right? So you're sitting in Bathurst right now, and you're doing some, you know, some traveling around with Tourism Chaleur, but you've been traveling, you know, ever since we were able to travel, right? When our level, when we went to the next level and we were able to travel, and a lot of the small tourism based businesses opened, but also our parks and things like that, you know, you hit the road with your family and your dog. And so you've been traveling a lot. So have you covered the whole province yet this summer, or was that
not even close? Not even close. And that's the thing, like, we are always on the go. A lot of times it's Clayton and I, my younger son, because my husband we're still working full time. So even though he's working from home, but and my older son, he's 17, so he has a job. But you know, we did do a trip to Alma, and we stayed a few nights there. We're based out of Moncton. I don't think I mentioned that. So most of what we've done this summer has been day trips, or, you know, we went to Alma, we stayed, and we actually explored a little bit more. I did a few things from St. John, because that's where my mom lives. So we went to see her for a couple nights and took her out. And that was another thing where my mother has mobility issues. We went on the Fundy Trail Parkway, and I shared that she was with us, because it's another side of what is available there. You can just drive through there and stop at the look-offs and still enjoy the park without having to do a hike, or, you know, go up and down stairs and things like that. So that's one of the things, even if whether I'm sponsored or not, I like to try to share some of the different things that are going on. But most of what we've done this summer has been day trips. Not that we didn't want to do overnights and stuff, but it was just, I mean, it was really hard to plan, honestly. Last summer, I started a series using the hashtag #StopToCNB. And it was to highlight the proposal I sent out. I sent it out to individual towns and cities, because I haven't done any work directly with Tourism NB. Not because I don't want to, but just there always seems to be highlighting the exact same things, and I wanted to showcase some of the smaller towns and some of the hidden gems. So, and not to say that they wouldn't sponsor that. I have talked to them a little bit, and they've given me some connections, but it's just, you know, they have a certain flow for their money too.
Right, absolutely.
So, yeah, so this last summer, we went to Sackville, which is, you know, a half an hour from Moncton, but we stayed there for 2 nights. and we spent time in the community, and we went to the historic sites, and we walked in the marsh, and we went to a theater production, and we kind of like we were immersed in the town. We went to Miramichi last summer for 2 nights, and we did Beaubears Island. We did the tour there. We did river cruise. You know, like we did zip lining. My husband and my older son did zip lining. Like we tried to see what we could. We went to the local shops and cafes, and we get an itinerary usually from the city or town that we're going to. We get their opinion, but I also like to try to reach out to local people that live there. The people that invite us are local, don't get me wrong. But I also like to reach out and say, you know, give me an idea of what you like to do or some of your favorite businesses in town. So for example, here in Bathurst, I had a list of beaches and trails and restaurants that were dog friendly. And then somebody else reached out to me yesterday and mentioned about the candy store that we ended up going to yesterday. And I wouldn't have necessarily known about it had I not had this person that was just there recently mention it to me. So it's not always planned.
That is important because, you know, sometimes we see the same, you know, same areas highlighted or the same small business owners highlighted. Maybe because of their services, or, you know, maybe because of how long they've been in that certain town, or, you know, what they're known for. But then there's other little stores, or maybe newer stores that, you know, have their hand up saying, well, what about me, right? And so I think that's so great that you use your community to reach out and say, I'm going here. You know, I have a list of things I want to do, but where are those hidden gems? Because that's, I know for me, you know, like you had mentioned on your Facebook the other day, like we're going to hit some takeouts, and I'm always saying that, like, where's those hidden gems, you know, that have the best this or the best that, you know, even the best customer service, right? You might not be in the market for something, but you might just kind of just want to go in and walk around, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing about reaching out to local people. And when I first started the series last summer, part of my pitch when I sent it out, and that's what we do as influencers, we send out pitches, was to have somebody local do a Facebook Live video with me while we're there. Well, both the places that we did last summer didn't have anybody they wanted to do that with. But I was still able to connect with some local people to give me more ideas without being on camera. So not everybody wants to do that, right? And you know, with COVID and everything this summer, I kind of went through, I think we all have gone up and down and up and down. I went through a period when everything shut down where I thought there's no point in even trying to reach out to do any of this summer because we don't know what is going to be happening. So I didn't send out pitches. I just thought when things open up, I'll do my own thing. And then when we started talking about how we've never really come north, we always stay on the Fundy Coast. I'm like, you know what? We've never gone really to stay overnight past Miramichi. So I said, let's reach out to a couple places north. So I reached out to Bathurst because I know somebody here. So I talked to her first, asked her for some ideas, and she made the connection with tourism for me. Like she's like, oh no, you need to talk to tourism, because we didn't even originally think about having this trip sponsored. We were going to come as a family and do that, and it just ended up kind of snowballing into this. And because of timing, it's my younger son and the dog with me, but it works out well because we're highlighting different things than if the whole family was here.
That's right. So let's chat a little bit that you mentioned COVID, and I mean, up until this point, you know, we haven't really chatted about that, but you've been traveling around the province since everything opened, and you know, how do you find that, like, you know, I mean, do you feel safe? Do you feel, you know, that the small business operators are, you know, are taking your, you know, your health into, you know, into their concern? And how have you found that as you've, because I mean, I've traveled the province as well, you know, this summer, and there's places that I always say, like, there doesn't feel like there's COVID here. It feels like it was last summer. So how are you finding that as you travel?
I have found that in general, people seem to be taking it seriously as far as businesses go. not always the patrons in the businesses, but I am quite impressed with how thorough businesses seem to be. And like I remember early on, we were in Rexton for a few nights too. I didn't mention that, but we went to the farmers market in Bucktush the weekend that we were up in Rexton, and that was the first farmers market we went to this summer. It was back, I think it was the end of June, and they were taking your name and phone number, and they didn't require masks, but they were suggesting them. We all had our masks on anyways. And I was thoroughly impressed with what they were doing. And then the markets opened up in Moncton. And so I had the experience at Bucktush. And then when I went into Moncton, they weren't taking names and numbers. And I'm like, why aren't they taking names and numbers? But they don't need to based on the rules. But I was just, it was just neat to see the difference between a smaller town and the city. I also found when we were in Alma last week, it seems like they're taking it very seriously down there. Like everybody seemed to have, you know, like their markings on the floor or limits on the door of how many people can go in. It's the same here. Quite a few of the shops that we went into, they'll say 4 people at a time or whatever, and they're enforcing it. So as much as it seems normal to be walking around on the street and to be, you know, out, we're doing a lot of outdoor things, so it doesn't affect it the same way, but like going on trails, going to beaches and things like that, I find when you do come to a building, it seems like everybody's following the rules. Like I said, it might be more the patrons that are not keeping the distance and things like that.
And I noticed that. So we were in St. Andrews on the holiday Monday of like New Brunswick Day. And I noticed that as well, is that like all, you know, everybody had, you know, the lineup, even at the bank, you know, they had the stickers on the floor, you know, and a lot of places had like maximum 4, maximum 2. And because it was so busy there that day, you know, it was either going to stand in the lineups or just kind of walk. So, you know, I found that as well, that they were really taking it seriously. You know, they had the hand sanitizer out and really telling you the rules instead of so that you knew going up to it. So you as a patron can make your own decisions whether I want to go in here or I want to wait and things like that. And I think that there's always going to be, you know, people who, you know, don't necessarily agree with kind of the rules or the procedures that we need to follow now. But that probably would have been the case, you know, if it wasn't COVID, if it was anything, you know, there are those patrons that would do that. So let's shift now to, we talked a little bit about like that you're in Bathurst and you've been to Rexton and Alma. So let's talk about some of the things that you've seen this summer. And I know you said that you couldn't pick a favorite, but I'm going to put you on the spot and I'm going to say, you know, out of all your travels up to this point, if you could, you know, sit with a cup of tea on your couch and reminisce, what would come to your mind of the highlights for the summer for you and your family?
Well, knowing that I'm only halfway through my trip here in Bathurst, and I do have a few pretty great beaches that we're going to be going to soon, I'm going to have to say I'm a beach person. Like I like to be outside, not a sandy swim in the water beach, but like sit and soak up the ocean air and, you know, walk along the beach and look for sea glass and all that kind of stuff. So I would have to say probably this summer our favorite, and I would say probably Clayton would agree with me, is the caves in St. Martin's. And I will be honest, I grew up in Quispamsis. I have lived in Moncton for 18 years, and I have never until this summer gone at low tide to go to the caves in St. Martin's. So that was a really great.
And I've said that a couple of times to people. Every time I see a picture of St. Martin's, I'm like, that's my most favorite place. And people would say, why didn't you tell me about it? And I'm like, I don't know, because I mean, I travel for my job and I've lived in St. John, and I just think like, how can nobody know about this fantastic place of St. Martin's, right?
It was just really nice because you can go in the caves, and like I had Clayton with me, so he's 7. It was just a really great day, and then he waded out in the water to his waist, and we just sat on the beach and enjoyed it. And I know you follow what I do, but if anybody out there doesn't follow me, I have a series of blog posts, and it will grow immensely this fall when I get blogging all the stuff we've done. But of beaches, and they've all been Fundy coastal beaches so far, but usually they're ones that are not known. So we're just driving along and we stop at a beach, and then I go on Google Maps and I say, oh, it's called this beach.
Right.
And then we write about it. But so they're not always beaches that have facilities or that are publicized. But that is like, I've always been near water and I love it. And so that to me is like comforting and just the perfect way to go. And we started that series the summer my mother was sick, because that's how the kids and I got away. We would drive 20 minutes and go sit on a beach. So, you know, again, we shared the reality of what was going on, but I was able to create content with it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm always thinking that way. But yeah, so this summer we've done a lot of that too. And you know, Clayton and I went down dirt roads one day outside of Sackville, and I had looked up this cove called Slacks Cove, and we were driving down this dirt road and I was almost ready to stop and turn around, and we arrived at it. And it was that bad a road. But I just love doing stuff like that. I don't necessarily, it's not that I don't like the touristy stuff, but this summer especially, it was the perfect way to explore the province, because you weren't running into crowds all the time. You didn't have to worry about what rules were in place, because you were on your own and you're doing your own thing and you're keeping your distance anyways. And even in St. Martin's, it was possible to still keep the distance. We ate at the restaurant right there on the beach that day too, and they had really great rules in place, and it was no problem there as well. And I think I mentioned earlier, we went to the Fundy Park or Fundy Trail Parkway. We've done that twice this summer. I did it once with my mom and once with Clayton. So, you know, we just like to get out and keep moving. We're big on history and museums. So this summer has been a little less of that, because some of the museums aren't open, or they have such restrictions in place that you can't access some of the stuff. So we've gone to some to try to show people that there are things that are open. We've gone to Resurgo Place in Moncton, and we shared, you know, what they are doing there to make it safe for people. We went to the military museum in Sussex. We went to Sussex one day just on a whim, spent the day. And we went to the museum there, and it was great, but they only allowed, I think there were 4 people were allowed, and there were 3 of us. So the young man that was working there, he took us on a full tour of the museum, walked through with us, and talked to us about the whole thing. We all had our masks on. It was great. You know, there's still ways to do some of these things, but there just might be, you know, you might have to wear your mask, or you might have to social distance, or, you know, follow the rules basically. But it has been a little more difficult to find the historic sites fully open this year.
Yeah.
And that's understandable.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So my final question is to your travel companion that's in the room with you. And so you've been very patient and you're all ready to go. I know you want to get out and enjoy the day in Bathurst, but so if you could pick one place that you went to this summer that was your favorite, what would you say?
I would say the yurt in Rexton.
We stayed in a yurt in Rexton. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Fun. It was a different experience.
This has been so much fun, and I wish you folks an excellent day. And I'd be looking forward to your blog, because I do have a 2-year-old puppy that travels well, and we're looking for some dog-friendly places for the fall. So have a great day in Bathurst. Thank you so much, RuthAnn, for spending this time with me. And we're going to link your to your page so that everyone can read all about your adventures.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us. And
Thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get out and continue enjoying our trip.
Awesome.
And let us know when you post the video, and we'll share it with our people too.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. Have a great day.